Welcome to the Hyper Growth Zone podcast. This is your go-to resource for personal growth, mastering communication, and influencing and persuasion techniques that will help you unleash the full potential of yourself and others. Here is your host, Alex Morgan.
Welcome to another episode of the Hyper Growth Zone podcast. My name is Alex Morgan, and I'm a master trainer of hypnosis and NLP. And on this episode, we're going to go deep into burnout and overwhelm, what those are, why you might be seeing burnout and overwhelm, and what you can do about it, especially in today's fast-paced world. So if you were to think about it, remember that time you felt like the walls were closing in, maybe emails are piling up, so many people trying to talk to you, deadlines looming, and the thought of one more task maybe just made your whole body tense or tighten or feel stress or anxiety? Well, maybe that's burnout. Maybe that's overwhelmed. Or maybe you have told someone before, I've had my clients tell me this before, I'm overwhelmed, and I ask them, about what specifically? And they say, everything. And has that ever happened to you? So if it has, we're tackling this head on. If you think about it though, can you really be overwhelmed about everything? It's got to be something specific. So it's really important to understand what burnout is and what you can do about it in today's world. So burnout is essentially something that happens when you're under a lot of stress for a long time. And then all of a sudden you run out of fuel. And a lot of people, they think that it just happens one day. Boom, they're burned out. Where burnout is actually more chronic. It doesn't just one day happen. It's because you've had anxiety, you've had stress, you've had overwhelmed, you've had way too many things on your plate for an extended period of time. And it's more than just being tired. It's a deep sense of exhaustion that affects your energy, your emotions, and how well you can work, enjoy your life, enjoy your family, enjoy your relationships, enjoy your money that you're making. Maybe you feel emotionally drained, like you have nothing left to give. Maybe you feel unmotivated, so tasks that used to excite you feel like a total chore. Or maybe you feel disconnected, you feel distance from others or things that you care about. And maybe it just feels like you're running on an empty tank and you just don't want to do that anymore. Where overwhelmed, everything feels like too much all at once. Overwhelm about everything, right? So it's that crushing sensation of having too many responsibilities, decisions, problems that you're dealing with. And a lot of times people with overwhelm, they give excuses. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough energy. I don't have enough resources to handle the things that I want to do. Maybe you feel stuck. You don't know where to start because everything feels so urgent. Maybe you have a sense of panic. Your mind races with every little thing that you need to do. Or maybe you have a feeling like you need help no matter how hard you work. No matter how hard you work in the physical, you just can't catch up. It's like trying to carry a pile of boxes that's heavy. And then you drop one, and then you have to pick it up again, and it never ends. One time I was working with a client, and they were helping so many people, and it had them feeling so good. However, after a few more sessions, they came to me and were telling me about how they then started to feel. And they told me that, yeah, they were a little overwhelmed, and I specifically asked them, overwhelmed about what? And they said, everything. And I said, could you really be overwhelmed about everything? And they just kind of gave me a look, and then they started to think about it inside. That's the great thing about that question. It forces you to think about something on the inside and gather resources so you don't think you don't have enough time, money, or resources to handle things. And then I asked them, what is important to you about helping people? And then their minds started to change because this question, they started to realize what was actually motivating them on the inside to help certain people. And soon enough, they didn't necessarily feel like they needed much help with anything. In fact, they started to protect their mental health. They started to protect their physical health. And just by asking them this question, it also improved their productivity and their focus. They thought, how can I be and have more quality as opposed to quantity? And how can I make things really sustainable? And they also noticed that over time, this enhanced different relationships, even at work and at home. And even myself, I've asked myself this same question. What's important to me about what I do? And the wonderful thing about this is this actually changes over time, because the different work you do, the different people that you work with, I realize that your motivations, they change, and they can change quite fast depending on how fast you achieve things. And all of a sudden, this started to support me to innovate different ideas, write different books, have more creativity, and even solve even problems that I hadn't even considered yet. I saw more balance and happiness, and I even had more resilience for things that used to feel like challenges. I started to just expand past them. And all of a sudden, I saw that none of that before even mattered, because what I want to do is just focus on what's important to me. And this is especially important in today's world, because so many people are connected through technology. There's different pressures to achieve. There's endless amounts of information coming at people, coming at you. Maybe this makes it even harder to unplug and recharge. And so preventing something like burnout, maybe it's something that's not just a nice to have for you. Maybe it's a necessity. Maybe it's a must have. So it's really important so you can maintain your health, your happiness, balance, relationships. There's so many different things that this can help. So maybe it's time for you to figure that out so that you can maybe, or maybe you have already, identified the signs of burnout or overwhelm for you, because I listed quite a few, even in those stories, all those things. And then all the benefits that you can experiment. There's a few reasons, though, why burnout might happen. One of them is overcommitment and perfectionism. Now, are you ever actually going to do something perfect? Most people that try to do something perfectly, they probably never even finish. They're great at starting things. They love to start things. However, maybe they don't finish them because they're trying to do it in a perfect way, and it has to be their way. Maybe it has to do something with control, or maybe it doesn't. Or maybe you're just overcommitting. Instead of, what I like to do is at the start, a lot of times when I'm working with a client or someone new or a company or something like this, I just tell them what I'm going to do with certain details fulfilling what they need. And then my plan is to over deliver. So I almost kind of undercommit in the start. I listen to them. I fill out all their needs. However, in the end, then I over deliver. But I never feel like I'm overcommitted because I know what I can handle. Or maybe burnout is happening because you have a lack of boundaries in your personal or professional life. Now, this is important because your mind, it can only handle so many things at once. You can only make so many pictures in your mind at once before it feels like it's overwhelmed or it wants to burn out. And the more that this happens, then the worse that you're going to feel. And like I said, burnout isn't something that just happens one day. Over time, a lack of sleep, overwork, and overcommitment, perfectionism over time. So not telling people no. And that's the wonderful thing about taking responsibility And having freedom is, guess what? You get to have the freedom to tell someone no. Because what a lot of people do is they don't say no, they don't set boundaries, and then they're the ones suffering. They're the ones saying, I don't have time, I don't have money, I don't have energy. So that's another reason. You need to figure out what you can do and what you can say no to. So maybe there's something in your business that is really, really important. Again, maybe that question, what is important to you to complete and do those things? Because those things are going to be motivating for you. And when those things are motivating for you, it makes it easy to do those things. And when you're getting results doing those things, you're not necessarily going to care about doing the other things that aren't leading to those results. Because most of the time, 20% of what we do is going to lead to 80% of the results. So set boundaries and find that 20% of things that is going to get you 80% of what you want. And then over time, you'll just fill in some things here and there to do it. And another reason why it may happen is the myth online of hustle culture. Work hard, stay motivated, don't quit, keep going. Keep going is fine. However, you don't need to hustle, you don't need to grind, you can put effort in your mind. You need to design the reality you want in your mind. If you're not using your mind to put in effort, then chances are you're just putting in more hard work. So this is why you need to set bigger goals as well. Because usually when we set small goals, we just tell ourselves, well, you know what? I can just work a little harder, a few more hours this week, and I can achieve it. Next thing you know, you're working more hours week after week. And life isn't very fun, now is it? However, if you set bigger goals, then you have to put effort in your mind. You have to think with your mind. You have to install new programs in your mind to actually achieve the goals. So instead of working so hard and hustling and grinding, you're actually putting the effort in your mind to do this. And you really need to put your mental health first to consider all of this. And it's okay to take breaks. It's okay to set limits of what you want to do each day, especially if you have a business. Now, did you create a business or did you create your own self-employment? A lot of people, when they first start out, they create their own self-employment where they're just working all the time. They're essentially the company. If you've actually created a business, then this means you can step away. And I've had someone on my podcast, and he said something really cool, I think, that when he works with clients, he recommends to them that when they start a business or they start their own self-employment, for example, that from the start, they need to build this with the intention of selling it. Because when they do that, this will set up their mind for success, knowing that it's much easier to delegate tasks or set up certain processes or put different systems in place to where they don't feel like they have to do everything. Now, there's some really easy ways that you can stop burnout as well, because why would you really want it? You might as well stop it before it even gets here. Remember what I mentioned earlier, that you need to figure out the tasks that you're doing and what are most important. So you can not only prioritize, you can also simplify different things, because maybe you're doing something that's really taking more time than it should. And I've done that many times with many different things. I found different ways to do things even faster and faster. Things that used to take several hours now take a few minutes. Maybe that's with AI. However, you need to strategically think in your mind, what's the most important thing that's going to bring in the most results for me? And then that's what you need to do. That's what you need to focus on and put your time in, because maybe you'll notice that instead of putting 20, 30, 40 hours in your business every week, then you can only put in 6, 8, or 10 and get the same results, and then have other time to come up with more strategies and use the creative part of your mind, the unconscious mind, to over time make even less and less time, less and less burnout, less and less overwhelm. Also, you need to find ways to set boundaries, like I mentioned. And another one is you need to have ways to have self-care. Now, many years ago, when I was going through bankruptcy, I was going through a failed relationship, all these different things, I was overwhelmed. I was burned out emotionally, mentally, financially, everything. It's like I kind of set everything on fire, and there it went. So I needed to start to find joy in small things, walking outside, going on hikes in the area around me, because where I lived, it had lots of mountains, and there was many close to me, and it was really easy for me to get out in nature and forget about certain things. However, one time I was on a hike, and eventually I kind of broke down, and I thought to myself, okay, I need to find something that really works for me, because this burnout, this overwhelm, it's continuing, and I can really feel it being heavy on my emotional state, in my mind. So I really wanted to do something about it. And that's when I found hypnosis. That's when I really started to listen to hypnosis online. So eventually I did a training. However, immediately I started to find joy in small things. I started to think, how can I take care of myself, me? Because if I'm not good, then how can I take care of anyone around me now or in the future? So that's how you're really going to start to change your reality too. You need to put time and effort into your mind, into your self-care. It's really important that you do that. So think about it. What's something that you can do today? Something small that you can do today. And if you don't know what that is, you can ask your unconscious mind, spend some thinking time with your unconscious mind, and ask your unconscious mind, what can I do today that's going to get me the most results? What can I do today that's going to have me feeling really good? What emotions do I want to feel today? And if you're not sure exactly what emotions you want to feel, your unconscious mind is going to know. However, do things that make you feel good. Because if you think about it, if you were to list out all the things that you did today, of those things, which ones made you feel good? Which ones made you feel joy? Which ones made you feel love? You can list out all the things you did today and notice what you felt as you did all those things. And notice whatever ones aren't making you feel good or aren't bringing you joy, figure out if you need to do those and figure out if someone else can do those for you. So that's a really easy way to know how good you're going to feel as you no longer have burnout and overwhelm, and maybe you already remember to forget, or you forgot to remember that there was any such thing as burnout or overwhelm. So there's plenty of people who have made small, consistent changes to improve their lives. And there's many people who even did this to get rid of bad habits, and all of a sudden they don't have that overwhelm and they don't have those bad habits anymore, leading to burnout. For example, a lot of people, they come to hypnosis to quit smoking. And really, this becomes a mental drain for them. It's almost like they have something holding them there that's, oh, you have to smoke at this time. You have to smoke at this time. You want to smoke at this time. And all of a sudden, they start to make small, consistent changes in their mind. And all of a sudden, they have more time. They have better health. They have more energy. All because they started to change different things in their mind. Because it's really important to know that you can truly recover from anything. And anything is possible when you put effort in your mind and you have the right tools. And if I think about it, for me, once I started to learn and do all the things that were important to me, success started to become easy. And I started to get different results because I decided to think that I'm in charge of my mind and my results, and the other people around me are in charge of their mind and their results. And even my client that I mentioned earlier, They saw that doing everything that was important to them, it not only changed how they thought about their business, their personal life, even where they lived. They started to make decisions that much easier and that much more effortless. So once you really get rid of burnout and you think of it as something that you can easily get rid of, you don't have to worry about any of the things that I mentioned earlier. Because remember, this can happen when you have common feelings of stress or feeling like so many things are demands, emotional, drained, unmotivated, disconnected. So what if you were to change your emotions so you, again, felt that joy, that feeling good, that love, that calmness that I mentioned? And what if you could be totally motivated to do whatever it is that you want? You knew exactly what was important to you. Remember that. And you felt connected. You felt connected to yourself, and you felt connected to the people all around you. And that's really what you can consider. So if you were to know, what are some ways that you can feel so connected to yourself and around you? How can you really feel the feel-good emotions? And how can you feel totally motivated? I think those are 3 things to consider, because then burnout and overwhelm, it won't even matter. Thanks so much for listening to this episode. If you want any help on any of these things, go ahead and reach out to me. All my information will be in the description of the episode. I really appreciate everyone who does listen to each of these episodes. If you think someone should benefit from this, definitely share this with them. And wherever you are listening, go ahead and rate the podcast so it can get into the minds of so many others. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope to see you on the next episode.